Good evening. Call the meeting to order for the regular meeting of the Abington School Committee, Tuesday, June 19th, in the Middle High School Library. Ask everybody please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Before we get started, hearing of visitors, anybody like to speak to the committee? We have some open time. Danielle?
Yes, that's okay. My printer wasn't working, so I have to read from my laptop.
Danielle, just give your name for it, all right?
I already wrote it out, so I wouldn't
thanks.
forget. I am prepared. Danielle Grafton, 111 Mount Laurel Lane. I'm here tonight to ask that you consider implementing a rotating schedule at Abington High School for the 2019-2020 school year. It's been on the back burner. I'm hoping that now that the new school has been open for a year, we are ready. As an 18-year veteran high school educator in a district that does have a rotating schedule, I firmly believe that the educational experience received by the students of Abington will be better if the change is made. Currently, Abington students sit through a 7-period day that does not change. Students who have English period 1 have a period 1 every single day of the school year. I'm sure you all remember how tired you were first period, and for some of you, how many times you were tardy. The same is true at the end of the day. Students who have math last period have math last every day of the year. Again, I'm sure you remember what learning was like last period, when all you were doing was counting down how many minutes you had left, or when you were exhausted after more than 6 hours of learning. And I'm sure you remember the declining behavior of kids in your class at the end of the day. A rotating schedule allows students to have classes at different times during the day, and it ensures that children are at their most receptive at least once a week. Different kids have different learning styles. For the same reason teachers are asked to vary their instructional practices and strategies, schools hopefully would consider varying the time. It also helps develop the organization. It requires them to manage their schedules. I understand Abington's hesitation for not doing this. I understand that our schools share teachers and that a rotating schedule at one school creates staffing and scheduling problems, but I am a problem solver and I do believe that there is a solution. There are other towns in the area that are similar in student population and socioeconomic status who have high schools that rotate classes. East Bridgewater, from what I've gathered online and from speaking with someone who has a student in the schools, is one of them. If you deem that student learning and achievement would be positively affected by a rotating schedule, I ask that you put aside any reason why it can't happen in Abington and focus on the way that it can happen here. I ask that you consider making this a priority for the upcoming school year, that if this is a priority and something that you deem to positively affect their educational experience, I ask that you consider a committee to be formed to focus on the feasibility of this change, what a new schedule would look like, and the creation of a timeline for its implementation. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Danielle. Yeah, please.
So, Danielle, we've talked about this. How long ago did we start this conversation?
A while.
A year ago? Two?
Yep.
So our initial conversations about the benefit of a rotating schedule. And so there's no, you're right, basically, on how it would be a good thing. In my own opinion, I think it would be best to have the high school council and the high school people who work on the schedule take a look at it. And I don't know if you said for the 18-19 or for the 19-20. I thought you said 19-20.
Look at it hopefully this year, and then just selfishly
Right.
as a parent who has a student coming up and getting closer to high school, I want these changes for the good of all Abington students, but selfishly I'd love to see some of the things that I'm really hoping for that my own kids get to benefit from.
So a study in the 18-19 for the 19-20.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I know that would be the
Yeah.
earliest
Right.
reasonable expectation. It might not even happen that year. I know there's a process.
And you and I have also talked that it would be helpful that there would be something that we would want to do. The only reason that it couldn't or wouldn't be done is if you have to eliminate so much program for kids to make it work. Because there's a good news, bad news in Abington. The good news is that we're small. The bad news is that because we're small, we've got people going all over the place to offer a very competitive program. We have a very impressive program of studies for kids for the size of the district we have. The bigger you are, the more you can offer. And so that's what I have to offer for you tonight in terms of my thoughts.
Yeah, and Danielle, I mean, I can say that as far as like taking it under advisement and starting to think about ways to do it, I can commit that we'll start to do that. I mean, that's about as far as I can go with it as far as committing right now, but it's something that I think most people do. Like, I think I agree with you on that. I think it's a good idea. So I like to see it happen, and it's something we'll definitely think about. The high school council may be a spot to start with it, but we'll look into that and see if that's the best way to start it.
Thank you.
It's ironic that you bring that up because I was just talking about this very subject with some teachers recently, and I was going to bring up the same question and ask why, because I think there's benefits to it. I just know for my own children, if they have appointments at the end of the day, I dismiss them and they're always missing the same class all the time. And I said, like, we need to talk about a rotating schedule. So I, for one, as a mom, think it's a really good idea because I know my kids are definitely fresher in the morning than the end of the day. Like, we talk about it all the time. So, I mean, I definitely think there's benefits to it. So thanks for bringing it up.
And is there a way to just collaborate with another district that is doing it, that's similarly sized, and maybe compare the programs?
See how they're doing it.
What we would gain or lose instead of solving the problem ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody else has already come up with a solution that seems like it works or doesn't work, we could work with them.
Mm-hmm.
Good thought. Yeah.
I know Braintree's doing it, I think, coming up in the upcoming year. I know they're a much bigger town than we are, but I know they're doing like a 6-day rotating schedule. I just was talking with someone that I know from there, so I don't know if they're a good person to get some information from.
And as you said, East Bridgewater, you believe?
East Bridgewater.
Braintree and East Bridgewater.
At least from the parent that I know and online on their school website, the high school's website, they have you can see the rotation of their periods.
Anybody else like to? Shannon?
Hi, I'm Shannon Tenori, 170 Wyman Road. And I just wanted to talk about recess at the middle school, particularly for the 5th grade coming up. Last week, we learned that 5th graders in the middle school only have 10 minutes of recess in a tennis court. The kids refer to it as a cage, and they feel like they're in a cage. So I've already talked to administration and the principal, and I know that they want longer recess for our 5th graders and even possibly our 6th graders. But all the surrounding towns have 20 minutes for 5th grade. Towns like Norwell, Situate, Hingham, Marshfield, their 5th graders get 30 minutes. And it actually, time is on our side next year because 5th graders only need 900 instructional hours, but they're going to a school with kids who need 990. So they're in school 27 minutes longer per day. So we actually do have the time. I understand the fields are a problem. High school students need gym class, but I just feel like we really need to figure out a way. And if the state were to mandate it, which it is, that's something that's on the table, then towns would have to figure it out. So I really think it's important, and a lot of parents think it's important. Kevin DiMarzio of Orange Street couldn't be here. He asked me to give his support. So, and I have a number of other 5th grade parents who support it, and a number of current 5th grade parents who tell me how difficult it has been for their 5th graders to be in school with only 10 minutes of recess. They came home from school crying on the first day. The boys in particular talk about how they are not able to run at all, and they don't actually have anything to do while they're out there. Not only is it only 10 minutes, there's nothing for them to do. They walk in a square. So, some kids don't even turn, some boys and girls aren't even gonna turn 11 until the day before school starts, and that's little. So they need to move around. Thank you.
Thank you.
Shannon, just to address really quick, I know you mentioned the law, possible law change, if that happens, obviously, it'll be followed. As far as, I'm going to defer to you on some of the other points.
We might also benefit because Matt McCurtain's here with us tonight.
Matt,
Can we put Matt on the spot?
yeah, that's fine. Matt, would you like to? That's fine.
The chair from the
Good to
committee?
see you again.
Yeah, no, Matt, that's fine.
Sure. You know, we have spoken in person and via email, and I've spoken with a couple of parents that I know are concerned about the length of recess here. There's a difficulty in scheduling recess for us that we can address once we have some additional field use available. It's true that our students are on the tennis courts for recess. What I do want to share, though, is that there is a large variety of things for them to do. I was out there today, and there were students playing kickball, there were students playing with frisbees, there were students running around the tennis courts. So I hope, please understand that we're not putting them out there to walk in a cage like in a prison movie.
Yes, perception is reality, though.
Yes.
So
Yeah,
this is what the kids feel like. This
Sure.
is what they perceive.
Sure, I understand that. And as I've said in communications before, we spend much of every summer reassessing schedules, trying to come up with the best programming possible for our students. I think that's true of all administrators in the district, particularly administrators with elementary grade levels, because we have a little bit more play with the schedule. From grade 7 through 12, the schedule really is set by programming and it's done by a computer, but for us it's done by hand. So I'm going to look at a way to try and hopefully increase recess time moving into September. And then with the addition of the fields out front, we can talk about where we want to be in terms of a school and a district as far as recess itself goes. Please understand I don't disagree with you.
I know you know.
And I understand that too. So
We just felt like this
I
was
appreciate you
testing
saying
time
that. I do.
And speak.
Yep. So as soon as those fields out front are available, we can move into a better situation where we can also put all kids together. Right now, we're limited as the number of students we can put out there because I don't want it to be that way. I don't want it to be too crowded and have students not able to move around and do the things that they want to do. So I hope that answers the question.
But if you increase the time, and then they'd be able to go to Riley Fields and have more space and use that
Sure.
area.
Sure, we actually made some attempts at having recess at Riley Field this year, particularly during some times when the tennis courts were being used for instruction for PE classes. The difficulty with Riley Field is that it is used by the public as well. So there were several times where there were barking dogs and things like that happening out there that made people reasonably uncomfortable. It's not the best option for us. I don't feel that it's the safest option for our students.
Behind the scenes, you should also know that Kate Casey, who is our wellness director, is coming up with a schedule for the synthetic fields, so that if there's any spillover time that the middle schoolers can use the synthetic fields that are used for gym classes, that they can be accommodated there also, perhaps.
Sure.
Something we're working on.
And I should also mention, we have a fantastic physical education and wellness staff. Jim Gorman, who works with our 5 through 8 students, also opened up some time of his own giving in the morning for 5 through 8 students to come in and use the gym too. So we're conscious of the need for kids to move around and are trying to find some creative solutions until a more permanent one can be addressed.
Just prior to this meeting, we were in a building committee meeting trying to ensure that the pump house that we lost comes back online, and that there's a temporary fix to water that front field, because that front field should be available next year in the fall. So it needs 3 growing seasons. The end of the last school year counts as 1. The one we're in now counts as 2. The beginning of the school year would be the 3rd one, which would mean at the end of next school year, at the end of the 18-19 year in the fall, we'd have access to that for youth teams, for recess, for all that to be used as space also. We just don't have that now. As we wait for that field to come on, that grass, if people run around in that grass now, it damages it to the extent that it won't be healthy for years down the road. So you have to, as much as you want to stand on the other side of the fence and look at it and you want to get on it, it's best to wait long term.
Just have a clarifying question.
Sure.
So it sounds like there's 2 different problems going on. One has to do with space and location, being like the fields, and that's a delayed problem that we might not be able to fix right now. And then the second problem has to do with time
Sure.
and schedules. So is there a way to have a little more fun time in the court? Like, is the scheduling time problem one that we could work on sooner than the year out?
Yeah, absolutely. That's exactly what I was saying about over the summertime. We want to take a look at how we can increase that schedule without having somebody go to recess as soon as they come to school,
Right.
and someone else having it just before the end of the day. And I need to be careful about the impact on classes that only meet once a week. For grade 5 and 6, they only have PE, they only have art, they only have music one time per week. So I need to be careful about impacting that, because when I add time to recess, naturally it takes time away from something else. So if I was a grade 5 teacher or a grade 6 teacher, and my recess impacted my science class every day, then my kids are getting less science than a class whose impact is more felt in social studies or math or ELA. So there's a balance that needs to be sort of found to make sure that we're providing everything we should.
Yeah,
But
I think it's
absolutely.
tough. The
So you-
5th grade is usually not always in a middle school. It's 6 through
Right.
8. So we kind of have to find a way to protect those 5th graders a little more so than we do worry about the 6th graders and their recess minutes, but
Sure.
maybe some give and take.
So your goal is to increase the time for the opening for next year, but you don't want to commit to that until you
Correct.
work that out.
My goal would be to get minimally back to where the fifth and 6th grade were. But as you were saying, if it's the will of the system, and Mr. Schaefer and I can talk about whether 5th grade should have more than 6th, but right now I look at them sort of the same. Get them back to where they were when they were at Woodsdale.
Yeah,
So
I feel like they're the same too, but because we do have that protection of 5th graders only need 900 instructional hours.
But that's, so can I, if you don't mind, can I address that for just a second? Because in going through planning for the middle school, and I would ask for those people that I work for to correct me if I misspeak here. The school designation is what directs the number of instructional hours that need to be achieved. So this school is designated as a middle school. So as a middle school, all grade levels in this school need to have 990 hours of instruction. When 5th and 6th grade were at Woodsdale, and it was designated as an elementary school, they needed 900, but because they are now in a middle school, they need 990.
That's correct, and it doesn't mean that we're not going to try to get the 15 to 20
Right.
minutes of additional recess for both grades.
Sure.
I think the only thing I would add is that with the fields, just when Jackie had said delayed, they're really not delayed. They're exactly where we thought they would be at this time. And I mean, we knew this, when we entered into this, I don't know, years and years and years ago, we knew that we would have to stay off that if we really want to be able to use them in the future. So they're actually on track.
Just doesn't help the class.
It
that's
doesn't help
coming
the
in.
class,
Yeah,
but they
they're-
are on track.
And it
for the
seems
school
wrong
building.
to say you guys have to wait a year so we can get our fields. We should find an alternate solution for that grade level.
Yeah,
And-
oh, I agree
Temporary.
with that, but the fields itself aren't delayed.
Gotcha.
And if you're not dodging dogs who mess on the field or dogs that are on the field, there's geese up at the Riley Field area that make it. You don't want your kids out there
Ew.
like that.
Well, I think Matt makes a good point, is that that's a public area
Yeah.
for the town of Abington and beyond. So
I can
We
tell
do
you
run
that
into-
our health office also has concerns with Riley Field being further away when there is inevitably there's an accident somewhere.
Yeah, I mean,
Nurses
you're
do.
taking kids off of, the school property boundary ends before you hit Riley Field. Right now, I don't know what kind of waivers would need to be signed to even do something, to do
No,
that.
and typically when we do something at Riley Field, it's announced, parents are aware of
Mm-hmm.
it, it's a special event, and they know that we're going there. To do that on a daily basis with the difficulty that poses, like I said, we did attempt it because it was an option and because we want to make sure we're looking at all of them, and
Yeah.
it was not one that we wanted to continue with.
As Matt and I talked about this about a week ago, I think that was my first question. Why not Riley Field?
Yeah. Yeah.
Matt, thank you, and thanks for starting to look into it over the summer for possibly at least looking into maybe doing something for next year.
Sure.
Shannon, I just want to mention too, I agree, I'm of the belief that 10 minutes is too little as well. You're definitely not the only person that has brought this up. Officially, we received some emails and people have mentioned it here and there to all of us, I think, on one-off basis. So you're definitely alone. And you mentioned that I think you thought this was the right place. It's definitely the right place. I appreciate you going through the proper channels. I know that can sometimes be a thing, so I appreciate you going through the proper channels, and I appreciate you coming here and bringing it up tonight. So thank you. Thanks, Matt. You're welcome.
Thank you.
Anyone else would like to speak? Okay, we'll move on to the reading and approval of minutes. We have 2 sets of minutes to discuss. The first set is from our May regular meeting that occurred here on May 22nd. I actually had one thing that I just needed to have changed. On page 7, it mentions that I will be the North River Collaborative Liaison. I was. They don't kind of have one going forward. It's going to kind of be the first one of the sessions is going to try to be geared towards new school committee members, and the next session will kind of be geared towards existing ones. So there's not going to be a school committee liaison anymore.
Just take out the wording.
Yeah, just take out the wording essentially. So.
Okay.
When you guys have a chance to review it, I was looking for a motion in a second.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
As amended.
As amended,
As
yes.
amended.
All in favor?
Aye.
Abstain. I was traveling for work.
The second set of minutes are from our meeting prior to the town meeting, where we essentially just approved the final budget to go into town meeting with. Again, take a look at it, and I know Jeanette was traveling again. Take a look at it, review it, and if there's any questions, any issues on it.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Abstain.
Sure.
So I'm excited about the next item. Appreciate being able to talk about this culminating consideration. So we had a group of people on a selection committee to make a recommendation to me, and then for our next Director of Student Services, or for our Director of Student Services, people are aware that Dr. Thomas is leaving the district. And so I want to publicly recognize and thank the people that helped us in terms of our screening committee. That's Steve McGuire, that's Shannon Tenori, Jane Coyle, Amy Kelstrand, Laura Monachino, Laura Luco, Andrea Doyle, Jackie Murphy, James Donahue, committee member Wendy Happel, and Felicia Michella. So this group of people who are made up of CPAC parents, administrators, parents who are members of school councils, and teachers met, reviewed candidates, held interviews. Following those interviews, we had follow-up interviews and reference checks, and I am pleased to be able to provide to you for consideration someone who I'm just going to read their bio and then announce them. Mr. James Robbins earned a bachelor's degree of arts in government from Hamilton College in New York State. He continued his education at Tufts University, where he earned a master's of arts degree in psychology as well as an educational specialist degree in school psychology. He became a school psychologist for the Littleton Public Schools in September of 2010 through 2013. Mr. Robbins was an Abington Schools Special Education Team Chairperson here at Abington High School from September 2013 to July of 2017. Most recently, and for this last school year, he's been in the East Bridgewater Public Schools as the Director of Special Education. In this position, he prepared federal entitlement grants to fund the Special Education Department, to help fund the Special Education Department, developed a compliance system to ensure the effective implementation of IEPs, arranged staff professional development. Throughout the year, partnered with building administrators to enhance pre-referral activities and develop academic schedules that facilitate service delivery. He oversaw the district's out-of-district students, developed an extended school year program, and supported the staffing process, and partnered with building administrators to recruit and hire new special education staff. And even more impressive than all of those things is Mr. Robbins is homegrown. He hails originally from Abington, Massachusetts. And I think when I introduce you to him, you will hear his passion not only for his work, but for service to this community, because I think he really moved our committee. I don't want to speak for our committee, but I think he moved our committee with that passion towards his candidacy in this position. So I'd like to introduce him to you, if I could.
Yes.
James, if you'd be able to take the podium. And
thanks, Peter. Sort of a tough description to follow. Thank you for it. Yeah, as Peter mentioned, I'm a graduate of your elementary, middle, and high schools. I feel incredibly well served by this community, and so it would be such an honor to give back and serve this community in a leadership capacity. Should you choose to appoint me in the role, some of the work that I would look forward to undertaking is building capacity among our special education staff. And I would do that by forming professional learning communities, by bringing together practitioners to solve problems in practice. I try to connect staff to meaningful professional development. I try to make sure that our staff had access to high quality intervention materials. Some of my fondest memories from my time when I worked in Abington just a year ago was in forming productive relationships with families. And so should I be appointed to this role, something I try to do as soon as possible is connect with families in this community to try to get feedback about how our department can best serve the community. So in addition to trying to build capacity for our staff members and build relationships with families, I try to just sort of build on our community values by just being an advocate for high standards for all students. I seek to honor and celebrate diversity among our student body and staff. I'd seek to cultivate a community where we affirm every individual's identity. And I'd be a consistent advocate for including social emotional instruction in our students' curriculum to help best prepare them to navigate their lives.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions for James? Do you have any questions for us?
No questions. I know the town pretty well.
Okay.
And I have experience doing a very similar job for the past year.
Okay.
And I got to work with DIPNA for a number of years and kind of see how everything is made and how it all works. So,
Okay, great. Before I ask for motion, I just want to echo you. I want to thank the screening committee, everybody who was on it. Wendy, thank you for being our rep on it. Do you have anything to add? Or?
No, it was great. I mean, I think it was unanimous that James did a wonderful job, and he really impressed the committee. So thank you for coming to Abington.
Thanks so much.
So that said, then I'd be looking from the committee for a motion to appoint Mr. James Robbins as the Director of Student Services for the Abington Public Schools.
I will make the motion.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Yes. Welcome.
Thank you. Welcome.
Thank you.
congratulations.
Up next, we have Jonathan Hawes from the Woodsdale Elementary School to present the 2018-19 School Improvement Plan.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be closing out a really successful first year on the new Woodsdale team and to be sort of shaping things towards year 2. To summarize a bit of the work that we did in this past school year, I think when I was working on the Beaverbrook team and eyeing the transition to the Woodsdale school, one of the things we heard loud and clear was the need for a welcoming, inviting school, a school that opened its doors and created some community connections in addition to the hard work that we do each day. And we really tried hard in last spring's school improvement plan to build in some things that would help connect the school community to the learning that was happening inside. I want to make sure I thank we have 2 council members here tonight, Ms. Happel and Ms. Tenori. They helped us out shaping the plan throughout the year. In the course of our meetings, one of the targets for the school improvement plan focus, I guess, was the community focus groups that we held here in the seminar room downstairs. That focus group session really informed where we're coming from for the next school improvement plan. And it really helped to achieve one of the 17-18 goals of fostering more community connections, allowing and seeking open input from our community members. We had a 1 hour long session and it was really, really great. We got a couple of specific items that are here in our plan. We implemented morning meeting, which was identified in one of our goals last year. I presented our morning meeting to the school committee here in March, giving you a little insight into who we had in our classrooms running these meetings, from the teacher end to the student end, and that's been a real benefit to our school for sure. Aside from community connections, running our focus groups, we held a very successful career week at the Woodsdale School. It was something that allowed our community members to come in and share about what they did when they got up in the morning and went for work each day. We had Superintendent Schaefer and Dr. Thomas here to share with their kids what they do every day, and it was really exciting stuff. We got tons of great feedback about it. More importantly, it was great to see parents in the building for an entire week. We had some really meaningful conversations, and we had some really fun conversations. I think one of our favorite ones, we had a mom of our school who's a 4th grade parent, and she's an operating room nurse. And so when I walked into a 4th grade classroom, I saw all the kids scrubbed in with their masks and their gowns on. It was really, really great. It was really great. So taking an eye on what we've got coming up for year 2, I think I would want to highlight in goal number 1, it's item 5. I think that this is one of the pieces that connects to really all corners of our school and all facets of our school improvement plan. It's continuing to develop and support a culture of reading at the Woodsdale School. So we, in addition to starting up a new team, we had the pleasure of getting our sleeves rolled up and diving into a brand new reading curriculum, reading textbook series, all the things that came with it. And one of those things that came with it was a shift in the instruction. So we are looking to continue that, support that, everywhere from coaching opportunities from our reading specialists to some of the supplies that we are purchasing and looking for in year 2. We had a really meaningful debrief about a month and a half ago, closing out year 1, taking a look at the things that we needed, and identifying the successes, and really most importantly, giving us the focus to sort of look at what we need to do better in year 2. Now that we've gained some familiarity with the program, it opens up a lot of the opportunities for us to say, okay, we know how to do this, so where can we boost it and where can we push a little bit more? So bringing in more writing, more phonics, making sure that we continue some community and all school focuses, such as the all school read, global read aloud, things that were really successful this year, inviting authors into our school. We have 2 really great reading specialists who have a big vision board in their workspace right now, and they are sort of checking off a lot of these items. They have booked a few authors already to come. They've scheduled some Skype sessions for us to utilize our technology to connect with both authors and other classrooms. It's some really exciting stuff. So I would say that goal, buried sort of midpoint in goal number 1, action item 5, really does. It connects to a lot of the different pieces, not only of the plan, but of our school. We will continue in goal 2 to focus on those community partnerships that have been so successful for us in the first year. We'll continue with the focus group. I really think that one of the more meaningful pieces that we got out of our community focus group is that we're doing a really good job on our team of creating a bright and inviting school, but we need to push a little bit more and get the parents to not only see more of it, even though we've given those opportunities, we want more opportunities. The other piece that we found in our focus group, it was the most common piece of feedback, is that we just need a little bit more information. So parents would like to see us hold information sessions about what is happening in the math and science classes, aside from our curriculum night, which is really just an overview. Our parents in that community focus group session gave us the feedback that they would like us to walk them through how to get online, how to make sure that their kids are accessing the things that they need, how to make sure that they're looking at the materials and able to help the kids at home. So it's our goal to hear that and make sure we provide opportunities for that. In goal 3, for the 18-19 plan, there were more items that were informed by our focus group. Some of the things such as the beautification of a Woodsdale school, everything from hearing what we need to do for our snow removal efforts during the winter time and just sort of eyeing some of the areas where we need to make sure our snow doesn't pile up to, and also making sure that we continue to increase our parents' awareness, this is item 3 in goal 3, about bullying, harassment, and social emotional health. That came out in our focus group as well. We had a really nice conversation about what the definition of bullying is, how we can, A, provide information for parents about bullying, and B, help them to understand what might just be a conflict that's coming home versus what is a real true bullying issue that the school needs to identify and sort of enact our bullying harassment protocol. So I would envision another one of those information sessions, just as I had described for mathematics, happening for our bullying and social emotional health as well. So shorter plan, 3 goals, but I think we've got some meaty stuff and a real nice push for year 2.
Thank you, Jonathan. Anybody have any questions?
Yeah, I don't really have a question. I do. I appreciate the focus on fewer goals and more achievables, a smarter plan.
Thanks.
Because they've been doing this for a long time, and sometimes it goes on, and you're like, okay, well, what do you think you really can achieve with your parents supporting stuff?
I appreciate that feedback.
I don't have a question, just a compliment. I have a child leaving Woodsdale now, so I've been privy to all that sort of goes on a day-to-day basis, and just an amazing job to Jonathan for creating a culture of feedback. I notice all the time how you seek the feedback, you use it, and you reflect on it, and I just think that's a really nice way to not only run a school, but I know that as a committee we're working on that too, so I just really appreciate the job that you're doing there. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd just like to say it was a pleasure working with you and the rest of the members. And I think you did a really good job your first year. I'm very impressed. And but as far as the focus groups, I absolutely love that you did that. And you had somebody come in to help you. You didn't even pay for it. So he just... Who was he?
So the gentleman's name was Dan. He works for, he owns or runs Research Options. They're out of Hanover. And he was really instrumental to that. We laid out what we wanted the focus group to look like. We, as a council, discussed over the first few opening meetings of the year, what are the things that we can take either from our school improvement plan and plan to push and continue, and what are the things that we really need a little bit more insight from. He helped us, A, refine some of those areas, and then take that and develop it into a discussion guide where we were able to chunk up the key areas into about 20 minutes at a time. He gave us questions, he gave us follow-up questions. He really guided us to it, and then he was sort of, okay, go off and do it. And so he didn't join us for the session that night, but I thought, thank you, because I thought it was
awesome
a really fun.
It really was fun. And I think everybody there, it was insightful for everyone. So I'd definitely like to see that continue.
It will.
And it keeps everything fresh too, because it's a 2-year school. So, you won't get stale, and there's new ideas always coming from parents. So I think it's great.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, there were 2 or 3 action items that came from here that we weren't planning on. It was just the feedback. We kept checking the box and saying, okay, this looks like an issue that A, a lot of people have questions about, and B, we need to, hadn't planned for it, but we need to go for it. So, thanks.
Great job.
Thanks, guys.
Jonathan, I got one really quick. About working with the DPW. Is there anything you need, like from us or from Peter, as far as like getting with them, or have they been good to work?
They've been great. Honestly, I think it was that was probably just a rookie principal thing.
Okay.
Where we had we found ourselves buried a couple of times this winter, and between Mike Russell, the head custodian at the Woodsdale School, and myself, We were really just worried about whether we can have indoor recess or whether we could get the area the playground area, blacktop area, de-iced. And then actually it was Ms. Tenori on our council that said, well, can't we just do something about where they actually pile it up? That we wouldn't have to deal with melting and drainage and all that. So some of the big picture things I've had a really good handle on this year, and some of those detailed things, I appreciated the suggestions. So next year we'll know what to look for.
Great.
Before you make a motion, I just want to say one thing about being on the council and the focus groups. It was, however, Mr. Haas got the parents there, he invited them like a random sample, and it was just really, as someone who goes to everything and sees the same parents all the time, and we all really have very similar ideas about what we want for our kids, and we're not afraid to speak up about it. There were parents there that I've never even met, and I think that's so important. To be able to hear from everybody and to have them feel comfortable to come and say what they think. It was refreshing to see parents, and I was surprised that there were parents that I did not know, and I see that as a good thing.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Right.
That was one of the most important pieces to the success of both the focus group and the information that we got, was making sure that it was not a stacked deck of our frequent flyers to all of our meetings, etc. So we were pounding the phones. We were making sure that if there were parents that hadn't typically come to school events, a phone call describing it and a follow-up phone call inviting them, and a further phone call the couple of nights before, making sure that they were all there. All told, we had 25 parents, and in addition to the 6 council members, it was nice.
Great.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, John.
Thank you.
Matt McCurtain here for a couple things, some revisions to Erica and Ali as well, for revisions to the student handbook first, and then the school improvement plan as well.
Sure. I'm going to turn it over to Erica right away. She has the revisions to the handbook.
Okay,
for you,
perfect.
And I'll
Yep.
jump in with
All
the
right,
school
sounds good.
So on the memo in front of you, you'll see a couple of additions that we made to our student handbook. One of them including social probation under our code of conduct. That gives us another option in terms of consequences when it comes to progressive discipline. And under our grounds for suspension, you will also see that we added the possession and or use of a vape. Both of these things are in alignment with conduct procedures that are currently in Abington High School's handbook. So we did see a need to have that consistency across the board. But those are the only additions that we have at this time.
Erica, just a random question. Does category mean like time it happened? Like category 1, category 2? Okay.
Yeah, there are certain things that, depending on what happens, the nature of it, it might automatically become a category 3.
Okay.
But yeah, for possession or use of a vape, it's usually first time offense, second
Gotcha.
time.
Okay. Any other questions? I'll be looking for a motion to approve the revisions to the 2018-19 middle school student handbook as presented.
Make the motion.
I'll second it.
Lisa, you second it?
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Thank you, Erica.
So I'd like to present to you the 2018-19 Abington Middle School School Improvement Plan. As you know, tomorrow is sort of the culminating event of 3 years worth of planning. It's the end of our first year at Abington Middle School. 2 schools that were at the Ferrolio Middle School and the Woodsdale School coming together as one. And I want to take a moment just to thank not only the council members, but the staff and everybody that has been involved in the planning and the execution of everything that brought us through a successful first year. So, and that includes several of you sitting over here. So thank you very much. Much appreciated. I'd like to start just by reviewing a little bit of our accomplishments from this past year. We took a chance in really changing our program of studies, moving into a brand new school and a brand new year. And we have STEAM classes that replaced what was math applications classes and critical thinking and design classes. Those replaced those at the 7-8 and were brand new for grades 5 and 6. In addition, we had digital literacy and computer science classes that replaced a computer specialist at the 5-6 level in computer classes, and those included updated standards. And both of those were very well received, not only from students, but also from staff members that were responsible for teaching them. In particular, the STEAM classes. We have teachers teaching the STEAM classes who also taught those other 2. And their response to this was that the students are more focused, that the work being done is better and more impactful. So we're thankful that those changes have been made. We had a new ELA programming investigation with items recommended for purchase, and we brought in new science materials to support science in grades 5 and 6. So we're very happy to have that stuff continue. We did, under Goal 2, we created and implemented our student council for grades 5 through 8. That was a brand new structure for us. We developed a student-run announcement team that makes announcements at the middle school every day. We included our student leadership positions. Erica worked very hard with a group of teachers in creating the WAVE Awards Incentive Program for grades 5 through 8, and continuing with our Student of the Month Awards, and looking at a new school-wide positive behavior intervention plan that we're ready to roll out for next year. Goal 3 was the integration of technology. We worked with our staff with the SAMR model. Substitution, augmentation, modification, and redefinition. I know Mr. Schaefer has talked about that several times here. Those became goals for the administrators in the building as well as several of our staff members. We looked at those as professional practice goals. We implemented 7 mobile laptop carts throughout the building to really build up the use of technology in classrooms. Staff members participated in the one-to-one computer group with several piloting learning management software that was chosen and ready for implementation next year. And successfully completing online MCAS testing for grades 5 through 8, which was not a small feat. That was 20 days of testing amongst 4 grade levels and moving carts all over the place. I think I walked by this library pushing multiple carts a number of times. Under Goal 4, providing home and school communication, we created and frequently updated Abington Middle School's Facebook page as well as the Grade 8 Philadelphia trip Facebook page. We published weekly email newsletters that were sent out every Friday. We piloted a weekly student written classroom newsletter that had been sent out on Tuesdays, and we hope to implement that on a more regular basis next year. And we held our end of the trimester honor roll assemblies. That was something new for grade 5 and 6 honor roll that had existed for 7 and 8. And we published our students of the month on a regular basis. So I'll pause there if you have questions. I know I kind of ran through that real quick. Sorry.
I mean, I just have one thing, and it's not
Sure.
so much, I mean, I guess it's sort of a question. It's, now there's the 4-year age gap here, and I feel like this 4-year age gap is much different than high school 4-year age gap. Like, what do you, I don't want to say one positive, one negative, but like, what do you see can be developed with like 10-year-olds and 14-year-olds, and what's something that's makes it difficult having like that kind of age range here?
So the difficulty really comes down to their developmental readiness for certain things, which is very different in grade 5 and grade 8. So when we do something like the implementation of the ALICE program, if I could use that as an example.
Yeah, of course, yeah.
You really have to put a lot of thought into how that gets presented to a 10-year-old who is in a new building, and how it gets presented to a 13 or 14-year-old student who is really starting to blossom into a young adult. That same type of thing comes up when we're talking about something as simple as after-school intramurals. To say we're going to run a basketball program. Well, an 8th grader plays basketball much differently than a 5th grader. When we look at how things are done instructionally, the approach in the classroom is different from grade 5 through grade 8. So there are a lot of differences. The real benefit I see, having worked in 2 grade level schools, I was a 4 grade level school at North and Center, a 3 grade level school at Woodsdale, and then a 2 grade level school at Woodsdale, and then a 2 grade level school at Frollo. And now I have 4. And I appreciate all of those opportunities because they were all great learning experiences for me. What we're able to do, hopefully, as this plays out for our 5th graders that are going to become 8th graders, in terms of exposing them to student leadership opportunities and personal growth, could be huge. When they get to see our Project 351 representative, Julia Wedge, stand up in the cafeteria and talk about the things that she's able to do because she's put so many things forward. When they get to see those examples that they really didn't get to see much of before.
Yeah, no, for sure.
Yeah, I think I would put that as like the #1 thing.
Great. All right,
I
thank
would
you.
have to say developmentally that just would have to be the key, as the younger ones actually have in our building now mentors to look up to that are their peers. And it's funny that you say that age group is hard. That's because you don't have high schoolers.
That's true.
13 and an 18 are very different than 13 and 14. So But it's
Yeah.
the fact that we're able to bring them together and they can experience it hands-on
Sure.
every single day of the year.
And as a former elementary school principal and now middle school principal, I mean, I get to tomorrow say goodbye to a group of 8th graders that I've worked with for 4 years. And I haven't had that experience up until this point. And it's nice. I've seen them come from those little guys that came over on a bus when they were in 4th grade to listen to what it's going to be like at the big Woodsdale school to now they're ready to cross the library bridge.
Matt, can you just talk about Curriculum and Professional Development Committee? Because I know that the directors and department heads have been instrumental in the programming both at this school and high school. So maybe for our new committee members as well,
Sure.
talk about that briefly.
Sure. Like Dimna was saying, that our Curriculum and Professional Development Committee is instrumental in bringing in new curriculum and making sure that we have the most updated things that we have and looking at PD that's meaningful and impactful. And I can go back to the 2 classes that we talked about, the STEAM class and the computer class. We have department heads and directors in grades 7 through 12. And then we have a director of elementary curriculum and professional development grades pre-K through 6. And that group comes together to really work solidly to make recommendations, to look at classroom performance, to look at student work, and really make sure that we're up to date and where we need to be. Is that?
Yeah, and I think that a lot of the ideas, which are wonderful, it takes a lot of work to make that, come actual to fruition. And we're so fortunate with the directors. We have, our whole entire PE program has changed, through KKC. You have, a great music program. You could go on about the arts with Mike Dorado, and then we have all your MCAS student achievement, but it's not just about that, it's also about the arts. So anyways, I just wanted to say that because they watch us also on TV.
Yeah, absolutely. And I get to stand up here and say we're doing these great
directors
things,
and
but
department heads, right?
the real power behind it is, and my job is to make sure that the classroom teachers and those people have what they need to do what they do well.
Right.
They're the ones that do it. I'm also a baseball coach, and I have this conversation with my team. I can put you in a position, but you have to play. And the result on the field really comes from the work that's done in the classroom, and the work that's done behind the scenes to prepare that. So.
Great. Thanks.
Just had a quick comment. Going back to what Jan and Chris were saying, it's nice, as we're talking about protecting 5th graders and giving them appropriate recess because of developmental, it's also nice to see the push for 5th graders. So in Goal 2, all of these items really sort of, that's the push part of now you're in middle school, so we're promoting that independence and the leadership part that they may not know how to seek out themselves coming from 4th grade to 5th. So I just loved all of those opportunities that you're sort of presenting to them, but then they are going to take the ball and run with it. And they don't really know how to do that when they come up. So it's kind of it's an important piece of the middle school experience.
It
so
is.
It's nice to see.
Thank you. Appreciate that feedback. So in looking at our new school improvement plan, we also cut ours down to 3 goals.
Good job. Nice job.
Thank you. We really, in years past, we've had a 4th goal, which was technology driven. And with the work that's been done in the district by people like Mr. Bykowski, who's sitting in the audience here, by our directors and our department heads, to really bring instructional technology to where it is now. It's no longer separate from teaching and learning, it's part of it. So we felt it was important to reflect those technology goals as part of our teaching and learning goals as part of the school improvement plan. So those have been kind of focused and brought in. So I'll point out a couple of key pieces in Goal 1 on page 9. We're still looking at investigating the implementation of heterogeneous grouping in grade 8 classes, and the department heads are a huge part of that as well. We're looking at improving the staff use of technology, continuing with the SAMR model. With our one-to-one initiative coming in, we added an action step, including the implementation of one-to-one computing for all students in grades 7 and 8. That's also expanding up to the high school, but this speaks to the middle school. And I want to make sure that I point out, when we put one-to-one computing in 7 to 8, all of the existing computer carts that we have now become available to grade 5 and 6. We'll be at a better than 2-to-1 scenario for grade 5 and 6. I anticipate next year having every 2 teachers share a cart and then having additional available. So there's plenty of one-to-one computing experience and availability for all of grade 5 through 8. 5 and 6 just don't get to take them home. In goal number 2, We're going to continue to provide student leadership opportunities at all grade levels and focus on identifying additional ones where available. We're implementing a three-tier school-wide PBIS WAVE program. So WAVE stands for Work Hard, Accept Responsibility, Value Diversity, and Embrace Challenges. And I'm proud to say that that came from a student.
That's awesome.
So I just think it's really neat that we're going to build something off of what one of our students had really come up with. In Goal 3, we also want to encourage and foster community partnerships. This year we worked closely with Horace Mann. We received a grant through ExxonMobil, and we want to foster other partnerships that can enhance our curriculum and foster those good things that we do. Number 4 there is important to me, and that's expanding the parent portal use to include grades 5 through 8. Coming into the middle school last year, I was impressed with the use of the portal, not necessarily by parents, but by students. And I may have said this last year, so if I'm repeating myself, forgive me. But we had students coming into the office. I had one child come in at the end of last year and tell me, Mr. McCurtain, it says 77 or 87 on my phone, but it says 85 on the computer. What's my grade? I thought that was awesome. It's an 87 now, just because she did that. No, we went and we were able to identify that there was a rounding and a calculation error that was happening on mobile. But our kids in 7-8 have become that used, they check that. And to start to have grade 5 and 6 have that capability, and parents have that capability. So we'll work towards that over the next year. There's a difference in how the setup is online for grading that needs to be accomplished, but I believe we can accomplish that.
I think it's so important to speak to the great asset that parent portal can be for bridging the school and the home if it's utilized fully in school, so that parents know what's happening and they can check in. We ask them, we want you to be involved, we want you to be involved. So let me at work, go on quick and see what's going on. It's great. And kids do look at it constantly.
They do.
Absolutely.
They do. My own kids at home do too.
Yeah.
My daughter obsesses over a point here or there to her detriment. My son looks at it and uses it more effectively.
Yeah. But I do think that it is, for a student that is looking at 85 or an 87, when something's not posted yet they've done it, wait a minute, it's a 0, I passed in, I swear, sure. Because it weighs on them. So.
Sure. And I'd like to add something that's not in the plan, and I apologize for that. It's more recent development that our grade 5 and 6 teachers who've been talking throughout the year are interested in looking at how to effectively team in small groups. We'll call them micro teams, so that we can look at how that middle school model should effectively play out 5 through 8. And there are a lot of options there. It could be that grade 5 remains as a self-contained and grade 6 does a small teaming, and then grade 7 is the large team. But next year we'll be working with some partner schools that I hope to identify over the summer to come back and make a recommendation for the following school year.
Questions?
I have one quick question on, does the new ELA, you're using Wonders at middle school too, does it not come with common assessments?
It does. So some of the common assessments are identified through programs, and others that need to be developed locally.
Okay, thanks.
Yep. The ELA and math programs tend to have common assessments that they come with, particularly at the grade 5 and 6 level.
I just saw a lot about common assessments, and I assumed that with Wonders it came with common. So
Correct.
It's the other
Correct.
grades.
Yep.
Thanks, Matt. Thank you, Erica.
Thank you.
I just want to say thank you, too, because it's been a great first year. It's my daughter's first year in 6th grade. And you've been bounced around so many times, so you've really adjusted well.
I would say I've been given a lot of opportunity.
Yes, you have.
Thankful for that.
So you guys have done a great job, and I love the improvement plan and everything that is going to be happening next year.
And I need to thank Erica.
Yeah, she's great.
Because 700 students in the first year, we couldn't be successful without a strong team around us, and
Right.
she's an integral part to that.
Great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Erica.
Thank you.
It's hard to believe, if I could, you remember the start of the school year with the line of traffic wrapping all the way around the building and then coming out through the construction zone and then down Glenowitz and then down to Troopies. So we've come a long way in 180 days.
Yeah.
So moving on, so we have the report of the subcommittees. Before we get into that, I just wanted to let everybody know, because I know this seems to be something that's come up before. There's a lot of negotiation stuff that's coming up now in the next section. I want to let everybody know that there's a lot of work done behind the scenes that isn't at these meetings. There's specifically for the Unit A subcommittee, Wendy was on that when Kathy was a school member, was on there. So Wendy, thank you for the time on there. But so there's been feedback from there. We've had numerous executive sessions to go over the details behind these. So it's not just, we're not seeing these tonight for the first time and going yes on all of them. I just want to let people at home, people here know that there's a lot of time spent behind the scenes. Because I have heard that some people just think, oh, we're just seeing it today and yes, and moving on from it. So I just wanted to get that out there. So now moving into it, the first is negotiations for the subcommittee for Unit A. Consideration of an agreement with the Abington Education Association. We all have a memorandum of agreement with the Unit A team, which we've discussed. I guess if there's no further questions, I'm looking for the committee for somebody to make a motion to approve the negotiated Unit A memorandum between the Abington School Committee and the Abington Education Association as presented.
I'll make the motion.
You should.
Thanks.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
That's done. Do you need to pass these out?
Yeah.
Do you have them to pass out?
We do.
Okay.
The custodians.
Pass them out to you.
Yeah.
No.
We all.
Okay, we all have them. Okay.
The committee. Yeah, I want to make sure the
Okay.
committee has it.
Okay. So second on this is the Abington Custodians Association. Again, we went over some of these. We have the Memorandum of Understanding, consideration of an agreement with the Abington Custodians Association. I'm looking for a motion to approve the negotiated memorandum of agreement between the Abington School Committee and the Abington Custodians Association as presented.
I'll make a motion.
Thank you. Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Number 3, Abington Maintenance Association. Consideration of a tentative agreement with the Abington Maintenance Association. Once again, looking for a motion to approve the negotiated memorandum of agreement between the Abington School Committee and the Abington Maintenance Association as presented. I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And next to last. So non-union bargaining staff. So the first one up is consideration of hourly increases for non-union bargaining staff. I think everybody has the list. So again, a motion to approve the hourly rates for non-collective bargaining staff for fiscal year 19 as presented.
I'll make a motion.
I can second.
All in favor?
Aye.
And the last one in here is a consideration of a salary agreement with the superintendent of schools. There's a memo here that includes an adjustment to the average annual salary for this year to get to the area average, and an increase for fiscal year 19 and fiscal year 20. We don't have any discussion about anything at this point, right? So I'm just going to look for a motion to approve the market rate increase of $2,345 and 3% increase for year 1 and year 2, with the increased expectation that we as a district continue to lift the level of professional performance at the leadership level of all schools, which the superintendent has direct control of, including the central office.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Could I
Yes. Yes, please.
make a comment?
Yep.
Could I thank the committee? I want to thank them not only for that, but for their openness. I want to thank them for their input. I want to thank you for your expectations as we look to continue to improve in the Abington Public Schools for our kids. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all you do.
And I'm now going to turn over to you, I guess, for a minute. Report of the superintendent of schools.
My mid-cycle evaluation.
So everybody should have the mid-cycle. So the way I set this up is everybody has the original goal grid with Peter's own self-eval in it, and then I did kind of a summary. Tried to take everybody's input, listed out there, and there's like a 4-page summary, one for each goal. I'm not going to read everything. I'm going to read a couple of the bullets that I highlighted as I was going through it. So for goal 1, district improvement goal, continue to transition and adjust pre-K through 12 to a new configuration that provides the best possible educational program for students. As far as the rating, there was 5 on target and 0 for need further action. The comments are there. I'm going to read a few. An exciting and successful year and a job well done on a successful transition of all buildings. Start-end adjustments have been made. While not ongoing, we ask the commitment to being open-minded that if opportunities arise to make them better for students' learning needs at all levels, that it's brought up for discussion. An example being the high school starting later, elementary earlier. How will increased kindergarten enrollment impact this? And last one I'll read on this. Adjustments have been made to address issues as they arise, but ongoing discussion and adjustments will need to be made as we encounter issues or better solutions. A continuous reevaluation is necessary in order to come up with most effective solutions. Goal 2, district improvement goal, increase educator proficiency with technology-related instructional tools, assessments, and platforms for pre-K through 12. 100% of the faculty and staff will be engaged in professional development focused on best practice classroom use, assessments, and improving digital literacy throughout the year. It was rated 4 on target and 1 need further action. Some of the comments: agreed the technology integrationalists will be critical in moving the staff from having access to new technology to actually having the ability and comfort level to use the new technology effectively. Hope to see improvement by end of year. Feel we continue to spoon feed our teachers in this area. We have been speaking about technology challenge teachers for years. A push needs to be made so that all come to terms with the changes that are occurring. Provide ongoing documentation of how the staff is utilizing the offer professional development on tech in their classrooms, and provide to the committee going forward better information on what is being given to the staff in these professional development sessions. Goal 3 is a student learning goal. Improve student achievement across all content areas, grade levels, and subgroups in assessments developed locally and as measured by the MCAS test for students in the aggregate. Additionally, the Woodsdale Elementary School high need student group which includes students with disabilities, English language learners, or low-income students, will demonstrate academic improvement on par with state indicators. The rating was 4 on target and 1 for needing further action. Going back to the self-evaluation, learning walks are a wonderful tool to use in improving instructional practices. Would like to be kept informed about how often they occur, who participates, and how frequently you get to participate. Want to be sure you have the presence with staff on this important work. Following the same kind of topic, an increased presence by you in all school buildings, perhaps unannounced visits, is an essential component for all of our schools. And also an additional focus on social issues at the middle school and high school level would be ideal. School-wide program auditorium seminars for suicide prevention, drug prevention, sexual assault would be valuable lessons for all of our students. And the last goal, professional practice goal, goal number 4, demonstrate an improved district and school lines of communication of expectations, policies, protocols, successes, and challenges through measurable and reliable data sources. The rating was on target 4 and needing further action 1. While time and energy is put into being available to the community through parent building events and meetings, this is something that can never be too much and would encourage a continuation increase of this practice. Accurate, concise information is provided in a timely manner when situations arise within the district that can affect all matters of safety. General informational items are now routinely distributed through multiple means of communication available, email, social media. Pleased with how the urgent need to implement ALICE training was addressed and accommodated. And lastly, improved lines of communication between families and district are evident and should be commended. An updated focus needs to be on improved communication between staff members and district leaders. Culture and climate remain a concern in some spots, and it is a priority that as we celebrate successes, we are honest and open about challenges that remain and look at how leadership can help shape healthy, happy school culture at each of our buildings. Ask if anybody has any comment, feel free while I catch my breath.
A lot of good feedback. I think there's
Great
a lot
feedback.
to think about.
Yeah. I'm going to add thank you, everybody, for getting this to me, so I had time to work on it, get it together, and summarize it. So thank you, all of you.
I want to thank the committee again for the open and honest feedback, the discussion about expectations. I want to thank you for all of this information that you've given me. And I just want to make sure, and I said this at our last meeting, and make it very clear. You know, anything that we've accomplished as a district has been done by a group and a team of people that care deeply about kids and love the work that they do with our children and the students in the Abington Public Schools, and we're lucky to be able to do that work. And there's a lot left to be done. I know that we're in a new building, and I know we've got a one-to-one initiative. I know we have full-day kindergarten. I know we successfully implemented an Alice initiative. We did some things on the fly that we needed to do. I think we did them well. There's so much more that needs to be done, and that's actually energizing and exciting, because those things that are the greatest challenges are the things that you're most proud of. And I'm lucky, again, to be working with such a great group of people, whether they're our teachers, our administrators, or whomever, our bus drivers, our cafeteria, our maintenance, our custodial, you name it. They care deeply about kids. So it's a great opportunity to continue to improve. So thank you.
Thank you. Do you want to get rid of
Sure, doesn't matter. Sure. The next item that we have is our technology action goal. You have been hearing so much about technology for the last couple of years. The man behind the curtain is Rich Bykowski.
Usually like it behind the curtain.
He's here with us tonight.
All right, thanks to the committee for a little bit of time to talk about technology in Abington. As Peter said, there have been a lot of technology improvements and changes over the past couple of years, in particular with this new building and all the new stuff that goes with that. And then, as he said, and as has come up a couple times today, we're also going to be implementing a one-to-one, grades 7 through 12 next year. Again, with the added benefit of more devices for the other grades as well, so it's not just something for 7 through 12, but it benefits the district as a whole. So everybody has the strategic action plan. In the past, what I've kind of done is hit sort of the highlights as opposed to going line by line, because there's a lot of stuff in there. So on page 1, probably the biggest update is relative to that one-to-one. We have purchased enough computers to provide 925 students, that's current enrollment numbers as of today, with computers to go home next year. We have those computers already. We're setting them up. They'll be deployed in September, late August, September. Still sort of ironing out the details and how that deployment is going to go. But it's obviously an exciting time, and it's going to be help to drive new methods of instruction, obviously, in the district. Also on page 1, there's mention of professional development, which has come up with a number of different folks here tonight, and it's obviously very important. You can't just take all these devices and pass them out and then run back behind the curtain and hope it all works out. So, you know, part of my role is to kind of assist with some of that professional development. So we've had an opportunity in years working with Microsoft. They've given us some funding, and we're able to bring an outside company in called Eduscape to provide both traditional professional development and some coaching to our staff, which we haven't had in the past. So that's a nice opportunity. And then along with the one-to-one, we're going to be implementing Canvas, which is a learning management system. And that will give our staff and our students kind of a one-stop shop for their online education while they're using these devices. And so Canvas will be coming in. We have a professional development day on August 28th. And Microsoft's funding with Eduscape and Canvas will both be here that day. and they'll cover the entire day of PD for 5 through 12 on the one-to-one rollout and those devices and on campus. Page 2, really the only addition on page 2 is the addition of the Canvas learning management system that I had just mentioned. On page 3, at the high school level, they've added 2 additional classes to the course catalog for next year. That's AP Computer Science Principles and Web Development. So, I'm not an instructor, but it's exciting for me to know that there are kids going through the Abington schools who are interested in things that I'm interested in, and there are opportunities for them to learn those things that 3 years ago when I started here just didn't exist. So that's great. The middle school is, as Mr. McCurtain had mentioned, is also going to do STEAM classes and working on those digital literacy classes as well. On page 4, just a quick follow-up. Again, we've worked with Microsoft for a few years. We've had Microsoft trainers come in and train the trainer, generally our tech liaisons or other staff members in the district, and then they're able to deliver PD. Now we have an opportunity. Microsoft gave us $11,000 to bring in this Eduscape company, and that's their job, just to deliver PD to districts. So, we can build on the base that we've already created and keep pushing things forward, which is exciting. On page 5, this is a big one for me as well. This is the staffing page, and as you probably know from the next item in the agenda, we're talking about an integration specialist. So that's great for us right now. We have a department of 2 full-time people that take care of all of the technology in the district, which includes the servers, includes the computers, the printers. Now with this building, includes supporting the HVAC system sometimes when people need help there. So having an integration specialist here is huge, because right now I'm the integration specialist and I'm the server guy and all of that. And the tech liaisons do great work, but they're also teaching. So having somebody whose full-time job will be to get into classrooms and really help teachers deliver that technology instruction. Mr. McCurtain said it earlier, like technology and instruction are not disparate objects anymore. It's one thing. So you can't just say, well, we have a computer, that's cool. You need to really change the way instruction is delivered. And that's where we need to go, and this person is going to help to get us there. And we don't have that opportunity now. And I'm glad we're getting that person, because if we were giving all these students devices and again just kind of saying, I hope it works, I don't think we would be successful. So this is really going to drive us to where I think we can be successful. Page 6, the update on page 6. Originally, I think it was a couple of years ago, we decided we'd try and use SharePoint, which is a Microsoft Office 365 product, to kind of create a repository or a place for staff to share ideas and share information and work as groups. In the meantime, Microsoft has introduced a product called Teams, which is a better option. So we've kind of pivoted away from SharePoint and we use Teams now. There are a number of common planning time groups and committees and groups just within grades that are all using Teams. And it's a way to just kind of collaborate as opposed to having to be together. Everyone can kind of get into a team and upload information, and then anyone can check it when they have time on their end. Page 7. We are steadily improving to have our district readiness for online assessments to be about 100. We did 3 through 8 this year. Every kid took MCAS online, 3 through 8. That is not a requirement that the state asks you to do, but Mr. Hawes and Mr. McCurtain were both happy with how things went last year in a smaller group, so we went all out for 3 through 8, and it's not pretty for them, but it did work. So I'm glad that we've jumped over that hurdle, and we don't have to worry about next year. Well, I hope we can also do the next grade, because we know we've done it, and it's been successful. And then the last thing I got on page 8 is relative to the technology committee. So this year, the technology committee, which has existed for a few years, sort of pivoted a little bit and really focused on the one-to-one as opposed to kind of the district as it has in the past, simply because this was such a big thing and it's hard to get teachers out of their classrooms a lot. So we kind of focused on the one-to-one
initiative. We had, I think it was 18 people in the committee. It was members from the high school and the middle school from all different subject areas and grade levels. And we met over the last 8 months just to talk about the hurdles that we might find and the vision for the district and how we can make the one-to-one successful. I thought it was a great group, lots of great ideas, and then those folks were able to go out and kind of discuss the ideas with their colleagues in their departments or at their grade levels and bring feedback back to the group again. So that was great. In the future, we'll pivot back kind of to a more district-wide type of committee. Obviously, still with some focus on the one-to-one as we make sure that it grows and is successful. But that's what happened with that committee this year. And that's what I've got from that plan.
Any questions for Rich?
No question. I just wanted to thank you, you and Mr. Hawes and Mr. McCurtain and the teams at each school for that 3 through 8, doing everything for the assessment, standardized assessment, in this case MCAS, online this year when you didn't have to. Because that huge hurdle, although it's an additional practice opportunity on the technology that unfortunately it counts. But I think that it just makes for our 3rd graders in particular, they've gotten a whole year of experience on the computerized tests that now next year as 4th graders, there's a learning curve that is sort of removed, that now they're focusing on the act of taking a test on the computer. So I know you didn't have to do that, and I know it was a ton of work. So I appreciate you taking that on and giving those students.
And I just want to jump in. I know I did this before at school committee and you weren't here, but you all know the principals and assistant principals so well because you see them every day or frequently. But Rich truly is an asset. I mean, what he does with the 2-man show is amazing, and your disposition and your wit has won everybody over within the whole district. And so just in the 11 years I've been here, seeing how much where we were and where we are, and just the work you've done here. I mean, just everything with this new building was overwhelming. So I want to say thank you, because he's very kind to me too.
So I want to make sure there aren't any other comments or questions, though, because I really wanted to say something similar to what Dimna said, but I have my own words. Do you guys have anything else?
No.
Can I say this? So this is a true story. Rich used to work in Weymouth, and he was beloved in Weymouth. And people in Weymouth will see me at conferences and meetings, and they will say, "How's Rich Bykowski doing?" And I'll say, "He's awesome. We love him. His work is amazing." And then they start to cry. Because they miss him, and you do such a great job.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your kindness. Probably have a red face.
And for the integrationist, which is so exciting for this district.
Yes.
I mean, I think that, there's so much that's gone into the technology. It'll be great to maybe have him or her, every once in a while come here so that we can showcase all the work that's being done, because it's so embedded in everything that we do now. And you've been doing a lot of that, but now having one person focused on that, I think is just going to be instrumental.
That's going to be great.
So thank you.
Thanks, Rich.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So in your packet, you have that job description for an instructional technology specialist. Pending your approval or any edits that are made tonight, we will post for this tomorrow. We were waiting for the resolution of the budget and the negotiations, and we were waiting for the resolution of this committee's consideration of this job description. Rich has put this together. This is an amalgam of probably 6 different job descriptions for the same job from different districts. And so I want to answer any questions. I may need to ask Rich to help me with those questions and then ask for your consideration.
Does anybody have any questions on it?
I do not.
Okay, so we're looking for the committee to for a motion to approve the job description for instructional technology specialist as presented.
Make the motion.
I'll second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. As Dimna said, this is a huge step forward for us.
Definitely.
Of course I'm leaving, and it's huge. So excited.
Do the next one.
Yeah, why don't you do it? Better do it.
So we have, does everybody have a copy of it? Teresa, Felicia? Okay, so we have a proposed reduction in our fees for facilities use. And I just want to say a couple of things about this, and I'll keep it brief and then let people ask any questions they might have, obviously. So what's happened is the custodial agreement that you've approved tonight has a reduction in the number of hours that are required for the minimum number of hours for a custodian to do the scheduled work, like clean the bathroom at the end of the use of the turf field when the bathrooms are rented. So you can see that here, because what happens when our custodians are working on those bathrooms, they're at the overtime rate because they work the 40 hours all week, they work nights, they work weekends. So at the time and a half rate, it's a higher value in terms of that work, or it's a higher cost for that work. But reducing it from the 3-hour minimum, which we appreciate, to the 2-hour minimum, as you can see from this chart, substantially reduces it in a number of areas. And so those savings are passed on. So in our groups 1, in our groups 1 is us. Group 2 are town departments and park and recreation. Group 3 are our youth organizations. For those groups, what we really try to do is be cost neutral in terms of the utilization of any space in the Abington Public Schools. It's those groups 4 that you'll see here that's been unchanged. Those are those privates and for-profits where we can actualize some savings or actualize some revenue to help maintain and to help keep up the facilities, in particular the turf field. And so a lot of questions, especially around the turf field. It's probably the time of year when people are going outdoors more. That we're getting a lot of those questions right now. People are scheduling for those spaces right now. So all the money, and there's a Q&A in the back of your packet that talks about facility use, that includes additional information about this, so I won't spend too much time on that, but I just want to highlight it. We sent that out. It's important for people to know that the money that's collected for the turf field goes into an account for the turf field. In 10 to 15 years, the turf field is not only made of fractured and frozen recycled tires, it's like a tire. Because if we maintain it for 10 to 15 years, if we maintain it well during the lifespan, which is 10 to 15 years, we'll get 15 years out of it. If we don't maintain it, if we don't groom it, if we don't move those pellets around, there will be spots that will show wear and be dangerous, and we'll get 10 years out of it. At the end of that time period, we're looking at today's dollars at about $800,000 to $1 million to replace that field. So this money is put aside in a separate account for the upkeep of the field and for those long-term, more expensive repairs. I need people to know, we checked with Felicia today, and the accounting on that turf field right now holds $16,875 in it. So the collection of the money, all of this money that we were collecting over either the 12 or the 18 months, Felicia, has amounted to that amount. Is it 12 or 18? Sorry, I put you on the spot.
Well, we came online before we opened
18 months, because it opened the spring before we opened.
So I just want to be completely open and transparent about this money, because I don't want the expectation to be that in 10 years we're going to have, at this rate, we're going to have $800,000 to $1 million to replace the field, because at this rate we're going to have between $100,000 and $200,000 to replace the field. And tonight I'm asking you, and I'm recommending this to you, to reduce these.
And also add to that, Peter, no money, we haven't spent any money on outside grooming or additional pellets. Everything that we've done has been within contract for the first year, and we got attic stock of pellets, et cetera, so we haven't had to buy additional things to service that field, which will also be an expense.
So even with all of that, I am recommending to you these decreases. There's another decrease here that you'll see just in the rate. If you're not using a custodian, the cost of the classroom, cafeteria, and gym spaces have all been reduced by $5. So if you need a custodian, it's been reduced, and if you don't need a custodian, it's still been reduced. So the reason so in the face of my tire analogy, and the long-term commitment we have to maintaining the field and then eventually one day replacing the field, these are the people, these are the taxpayers who have been assessed an additional tax bill on their homes to build this in the first place. So we really want to remain cost neutral with these and be responsible stewards of this for people. And we want our youth groups, our soccer and our lacrosse and our football, our cheerleaders, to use all of these facilities on a cost neutral basis, because they are our taxpayers, they're people that built this school. At the same time, we have a responsibility to make sure that we maintain and we keep these fields and these classrooms up to par, because all of these people invested so much money in them. So we do need to have some resources to do that. Otherwise, we're taking dedicated money from the school department budget that the taxpayers gave us to educate children and funneling it into this, which is not why the taxpayers gave us the money. They gave it to educate the children. And so we tried to provide that balance here. We tried to provide some reductions. I'll answer any questions that people have.
I also just want to mention you mentioned how the frequently asked questions is in the packet. That was also sent out as part of a constant contact, I think, from you. So it's maybe last week.
Yep.
I don't have any questions.
I don't have any questions, but I do want to say how I appreciate you reducing the cost for the youth groups a little bit. I know that's been kind of a big thing of mine for the last couple of years. So,
but it's nice of you to say that. I kid with people that I don't get to take this money home. So, thank you for thanking me, but really it was Felicia, the custodians, and it's the youth groups. The points that you've made, Wendy, and other people have made about, they want to be on these fields. And so we really want to push that number to give them the opportunity to be on the fields, because all those kids wearing green shirts in youth sports for Abington they're our kids. So
that's right. Thank you.
Peter, I just have one question that maybe I'm missing it, and I always think if one person is confused, there may be another one.
Yep.
So we're going to be sharing this after we approve it. So we're reducing the hour minimums to 2 for the custodial, correct?
Correct.
And yet on the frequently asked question, it says there is a 3-hour minimum.
So great. I'm so glad you pointed out, because I would have not remembered to change this. This came out last week before we knew we could do this. So I'm glad that you mentioned that. So we will update that sheet pending your approval.
Anybody have any other questions?
No, just a comment that I think it's great that we're taking feedback from the community. I know that the Q&A helps to solve, or not solve, but it puts it out there for everybody to see, not just youth groups, why things are the way they are. And then I know we didn't have to go back and look at the cost savings, but you did, and I think people appreciate that.
I agree.
So we'll be looking for a motion to approve the revisions to the facility use fees as presented.
I'll make a motion.
I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Dr. Thomas, report of the Assistant Superintendent for People and Personnel Services.
Great, thank you. I have 2 items this evening that are both informational. Our Curriculum Professional Development Council gets together regularly, and also we determine around this time of the year some summer focus areas for curriculum, and it could be longer than summer, but a lot of our staff do more writing in summer. So as you may be aware, we have focus on ELA curriculum writing, as well at grades 1 through 6. We have science curriculum writing, 3, 4, and 6. Art department curriculum writing, and that's district-wide. The STEAM curriculum and program review writing, also it's at the middle school. Our wellness department curriculum is grade 2 for the health. And then we also have a focus on mind, body, and spirit. And then CrossFit and lifestyle. So you're able to see how there is major changes in our PE, which is really exciting, in our health. The ELL curriculum writing is ongoing. We have a larger population of our ELL students that come in at different needs, so that ongoing update is happening. And then we have the Student Activities Advisor Handbook, because there is continuous work on that. And then we have some online curriculum writing for Canvas, as Rich already spoke to earlier, environmental science, and then biology. And we have computer programming and web development. So there's a lot of work that's going on, and that is all under the leadership of our department heads and our directors who do that through our Curriculum Professional Development Council. So any questions on that?
It's nice to see a broad range of things being looked at.
Yeah, and it's exciting that we have so many people that signed up to do this, which is wonderful. The next piece is our indicator. As you know, we've had a lot of audits in the area of special education, and so we are finally done for this year. And our most recent audit area were focused on the indicators. So there are 3 indicators that we had to make sure that we were in compliance, and I'm happy to report that all 3 were 100% compliance. And our first one was Indicator 11, which measures the timelines for determining initial special education eligibility. So they basically go back and they track our X2, and they look at everything that we've done, make sure that the timelines are in regulation. So I'm happy to report on that. The other piece for Indicator 12 is to look at the data on the transition from early intervention to preschool for children with disabilities on or before their child's 3rd birthday. So as children transition out of early intervention programming into public school, they have to have an IEP in advance, and so we're also in compliance with all of that. So it usually starts around 2.5 when they're about 2.5 years old, and then we have all our children getting ready so that when they're entering at 3, we're all good to go in terms of what supports and resources and staffing, et cetera, for services that they would need to have in place. And our preschool numbers are going through the roof. And that's not just Abington, it's all around. Because we're talking about, we're so excited to have our own wing, but we could actually add to the wing because there's just so many, children and families. And then with the addition of the kindergarten, it's even more exciting. And then Indicator 13, which is the secondary transition. So not only are we looking at what we're doing for our kids at the early age, we're also looking at when they leave us and they graduate, what they're doing after for students that are on IEPs. And so beginning at age 14 or sooner, if determined appropriate by an individualized education program team, school-age children with disabilities shall be entitled to transition services and measurable post-secondary goals as provided under the IDEA, which is the federal regulations. And so we're tracking, but then we're also providing services to students, and also, depending upon how long they're with us, it could be till graduation from high school or until they age out at 22. So we're in a great place. I also want to welcome, James Robbins. Abington is in a good place regarding regulations, so you'll be good to go on that front, and I'm excited to work with James over the next few months in doing some work together. So congratulations. Any questions? All right, thank you.
Report of the Assistant Superintendent for Business and Finance. Felicia.
Thank you. Apologize for the little edit on that sheet. Right down to today, usually the school committee meeting each year, I look to the committee to vote transfer. At the beginning of the year, you vote salary and expense allocation, and then as we get to the end of the year, adjustments may be made to that. And tonight I'm asking for $105,000 transfer from the expense account line to the salary account line for the FY18 budget allocation. And each year, or this year, that transfer is inclusive of such things as final substitute coverage, hourly overtime, additional paraprofessional and tutor support, and those types of things that come up.
Yeah, just moving from one line to the other,
That's
essentially, right?
Yep. There's no increase to the budget or anything. It's the total school department budget is still $21,386.60.
Okay.
Basically, if in terms of Felicia managing both those big accounts, at the end of the year, as the drawdown comes, it's appropriate to, and it's required to, have the commitment make those end of year transfers so that they can appropriately be drawn down.
I'll make the motion.
Okay.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. School building committee update. We have a number of items that will be addressed in the coming weeks as school gets out this week. The biggest project, the biggest thing that you'll see is that wall covering that will be on the main hallways of the spine going from the cafeterias down to the gym area. If you remember, that was an area that was, the wall covering was engineered out, and when the project came in where it did, we're able to add that back in. And you can see walking down those hallways, not from abuse, just from use, what's happened to those light color walls. So that will be done. A lot of final punch list items will be addressed in the coming weeks. The banners are going to be replaced. If you remember the banners that were in the gym, the A was a different color than the outside border. Those are being redone and will be rehung this week. So final touches, when we're back here August 28th, I think I'll be happy to report that, knock on wood, we're just about where we need to be. Since our last meeting, the other thing that's happened is we had the incident with the irrigation shed that you may or may not have known about. We had a ruptured tank in there. So that is also being addressed by the school building committee. There's a temporary fix for water out to the front fields. And then in the coming weeks, we'll be making proposals to replace that irrigation shed and the apparatus within that. So I think a lot's going to, and we're also, like I mentioned at the last meeting, we're still looking for a resolution to the flooring issue that we have, and the issue is much more visual than it is the use of the floor. There isn't a problem necessarily with the floor, but visually there's some issues with the floor. So yeah, it's going to be busy here in the next few weeks. We're also working with the summer schools that are happening here and the sports camps in terms of making sure that the work isn't interfering with those things. Oh, one other big one that's going to happen is we're addressing some of the water issues out on the site that we have, the icing and the water flow issues. So there will be times this summer that the roadway will be impacted by that, but the contractors have assured us that they'll have signages up and making sure that if people can't get around, then they won't be stuck behind the building and won't be able to get back out. So that is going to be addressed this summer, and we're looking forward to not having the icing and water that we experienced this winter.
Can I ask Felicia to mention that all of the cool air and the lights in here were provided by what today?
Our photovoltaic array went online on Friday. So yes, the cool air and lighting that you see is about 40 to 50% being paid for or used. We're using the energy that we are harvesting.
It's great. So
Saves $40,000 to $50,000 a year.
Awesome. That was a good job getting
Feel
on.
cool.
It does feel cool.
Don't feel guilty feeling cool.
Feel 40% or 60% guilty.
Yeah.
So new business establishing a next school committee meeting date. So happy summer. Tuesday, August 28, 2018 at 7 p.m. here at the Middle High School Library.
Felicia, can I ask just one thing for that meeting? I always like to know how much we collected the year before for that recycling, the base tape.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
So just to give us a good school year to school year.
Will do.
Thank you.
Before we get into informational, we found out right when this started, Janae, correct me if I'm wrong, that the girls softball team won tonight.
Yes.
So they are playing for the state championship Friday? One day this week.
Yeah, I think that's the tentative.
Yeah. So congratulations to them whenever this airs.
And that'll be published. We'll confirm that time and that date and that place.
Go ahead, let you go.
Under informational items, I just wanted to point out a couple of things to you, if I could, please. We've been certified as an ALICE school district. It's that certification required that we did the following things. Just want to tell you what's happened. We had 17 people, 12 administrators and 5 police officers who were who became certified ALICE trainers, and they worked on a training model here that provided 1 hour of online work for every single employee in the Abington Public Schools. And we had St. Bridget's over. St. Bridget's also participated with us to help them out over there. It required an assessment be done in order to move to the next module, which was 3 hours of instruction and demonstration, again provided by administration in the police department. And then we had 3 hours of drills and scenarios and situations with question and answer and time to process all of this with, again, all of those employees, cafeteria custodians. When I say everyone, I mean everyone. And then you're aware that we had a parent evening to talk about the delivery of this information to our students. And I'm really proud of the way that that went as I went to all of the buildings and observed the rollout with our kids. It was really differentiated based on age level and sensitivity of material to our students. And then students were engaged in different activities around that to reinforce all of that training. This is not a one and done deal. This is something that we're going to annually revisit, retrain, and drill with. So now, having done all of those things, including the school operational emergency plan that the committee reviewed just earlier, that approval of that completes all of the tasks required for us to be a certified district. And so I just want to make sure you know that the police and the fire department were a part of the review of that plan because we really coordinated that with all of the emergency responders. So I appreciate you supporting the half days that we needed to insert in the middle of a school year, which parents weren't aware of till we rolled out this plan. But obviously, all of those things that are negatives about the inconvenience of those days or whatever work had to be done are substantially outweighed by the need in our country, and it's unfortunate that we even have to think about these things. But it becomes more about why not do this right away than why delay it or you know, why do it. So I want to make sure I highlighted that to you. I also want to make sure that included in your packet, I've listed the times that I'm going to be out in buildings, unannounced walkthroughs and visits. I didn't include the unannounced, to be quite honest with you. See how I did that? That's why I get the big title. The other piece to that is oftentimes I don't know when those unannounced visits are going to take place. A lot of times they are, there's other business in the school, I'll spend extra time there, and so I'm able to conduct that business and then at the same time, you know, do a walkthrough and be a part of what's going on in the building. So I wanted you to know I did include at least the announced visits in the packet.
And how do those visits compare to this past school year? Is it an increase, the same?
So the announced visits is the same number. I did about that many this year. So there were a couple of occasions where I couldn't make it because of a situation that occurred in the district. I canceled those, but then I rescheduled them. I think there were only, that I can think of, 2 or 3 that I canceled that I never got a chance to reschedule.
Just curious.
Yeah, no, I appreciate the question.
I just wanted to thank, I know the ALICE was always going to be implemented. It got advanced based on community feedback, so I just wanted to thank administration, staff, everybody that was involved in advancing it like they did. Thank the parents for being flexible with the 2 extra half days. I know it wasn't easy to do, but I'm glad it is done. It was the right thing to do based on what the community wanted, so thank you. And just to update, the softball team will be playing versus Turner Falls Saturday at 1 p.m. at Worcester State for the state championship. And if this is wrong, address it to Felicia Michello.
That's wrong. Abington Athletics.
That's really exciting. That's good for them. And
Right,
they're such
definitely.
a nice, great bunch of young ladies too. So.
Wish them
We
the
should
best.
also, on Twitter, the police and fire, it looks like, met them at the town line.
Oh, that's
okay,
awesome.
Cool.
I saw them Friday night. I don't know where they went to Taunton
Yeah.
And they had a police escort back. Cub Scouts was there at the Furlio, and you could hear them screaming from Route 18. So all our boys went running, and they were hanging out the windows and screaming, clapping. It was really exciting.
That's great. Best of luck.
Dates to remember?
Yeah.
So under dates to remember, obviously the 4th of July is the 4th of July. On August 23rd, we have our new teacher orientation at 8 a.m. at Abington High School. On the 27th, it's our teachers meeting at 8 a.m. here at the high school. On the 28th, we have a full-day professional development day. Wednesday, August 29th will be the first day for students, grades 1 through 12. There's no school on the 31st. The 3rd is Labor Day. And then on September 4th, our preschool and kindergarten begin.
Thank you.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
What about the orientation? Would that be
For
the day? Well, open house. Yeah.
I
Excuse
think
me. Thank you.
from what I've heard, there's at least Beaverbrook, Woodsdale, and the middle school, I think, are staggering them all on the 27th.
On the 27th.
Yeah,
Okay.
with like half hour. They're all 2 hours long, but they're starting like 3:30 is 3:30 to 5:30 is Beaverbrook, 4 to 6 is Woodsdale. I'm gonna guess 4:30 to 6:30 is middle school, but I don't know middle school because I don't have anybody going there. But they're all staggered on that day.
And then additional announcements will be
Yeah.
provided about that.
Okay, but on the 27th it'll be.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Thank you.
So with that, I'll be looking for a motion to adjourn. Megan?
Oh, I don't know. I thought you were starting.
I did.
I didn't want.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, I moved.
You want to second it?
I'll second it, sure.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good.
You can tell it's the end of the year, we're all like,
I know. Seriously.
Yeah.
That was great.
I know, I
miss you
I
guys.
saw the light up there really quick.
Mrs. Minahan.
No, I'm just saying.